States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start the meeting, and for those of you who know Harold has passed away, we're sorry to say. And there's three original people left from the original board that put together the alliance. Where is she? Okay. Harold Klein was one of them, and Evelyn was the other, and I was the third. So we're getting down to the bed. Everybody else is gone. Harold was a good guy. He worked hard in the formation of this organization, and he represented us well, and he'll be missed. God bless you, Harold. Okay, we're going to start our meeting because we have a lot of speakers here today, and so we're going to call on Captain Eastman. Arnie Katz. Whoa. I think it's time for me to retire. Do me a favor, vote me out. Come on, Arnie.
Voting you in. I'd like to acknowledge all the guests and political office folks that have joined us this morning. Please hold your applause till the end. Allegra Fung, judicial candidate. Ed Saul, Emily Schlossberg's office. Maxine Cheeseman, judicial candidate. Gabe Ermine, judicial candidate. Shannon Ramsey Cheeseman, Clerk and Comptroller's office. Clerk and Comptroller's office. Derek Schwartz, candidate for District 21. Dana Ackerman White, Commissioner Dave Kerner's office. Lloyd Cormier, candidate for Judge. Michael McAuliffe, candidate for Judge. Freddie Scott, Commissioner Abrams' office. Sarah Johnson, Emily Schlossberg's office. Scott Kerner, judicial candidate. Lori Berman, candidate for State Senate. Rosemary Raymond, Lake Ridge Drainage District. Terry Mitzi, Senator Bruzzo's office. Gabriella Ferraro, civil engineer liaison with Palm Beach Tax Collector's office. Leslie Schreiberg, Sheriff Bradshaw's office. Tina Polsky, candidate for Florida House. Mary Lou Berger, Palm Beach County Commissioner. Jessica Metzger, State Senator Rader's office. Jenny Caesar, Congresswoman Lois Frankel's office. Megan White, Commissioner Mary Lou Berger's office. Quinn Johnson, candidate for Circuit Court Judge. Rebecca De La Rosa, Legislative Director for Palm Beach County Government. Mark Katz, representing Derek Schwartz. Mike Pratt, Palm Beach County Property Appraiser's office. Anthony Palmieri, Palm Beach County Clerk and Comptroller's office. Alexis Andrus, Flora Sugar, LeCaine Lee. Sarah also from GL Homes. Sean Eastman, Palm Beach County Captain, District 4. Linda Posnack from Kings Point. And Laura Corey, Regional Representative. Welcome, everyone.
We'll move right along as usual. We'll start with the Sheriff's office, Captain Eastman. Captain will give us a report what's doing in this area.
Morning. I'll start with one of the big questions that I've gotten from everybody so far is that if you're not aware, our substation or district's been closed for a while for some remediation in reference to some mold issues we've had. I don't have a definitive date today. However, we are meeting with the county today. They've been hard at work cleaning up the building, and the sheriff and the county and myself are meeting this afternoon. So hopefully we'll have a date, and hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we'll have the actual building open again soon. In the meantime, though, we have been hard at work. Everybody's still been out there keeping you guys safe. It's just we're trying to get the building safe for the employees. So I'm going to go over some of the crime stats. I know that we've discussed the stolen vehicles a lot lately. I guess it's probably been over the last 6 months that it's really spiked. And something I'll touch on is I've been to a lot of HOA meetings in reference to this, people asking questions about it, and I think we've discussed that the common theme has been that people are leaving the key fobs in the vehicle and the vehicles are being stolen. So And often when I'm there, I tell them that we're doing an investigation. There's a lot of questions, and if I put myself on the other side, you asking the questions, if it was me asking, people are like, well, what's being done? And we really can't get into it. And I know I'd want to know too. So here, I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to give you some good news. So what happened is we were able to make an arrest of 3 juveniles. And what's sad is the oldest one of them was born in 2000. Yeah. So far through investigative leads and actual evidence, we've been able to link to 46 stolen vehicles here in Palm Beach County, 3 juveniles. Now, common sense tells us they're responsible for a lot more of them, but you know, we can't put them in jail for common sense. But 46 of them, through evidence, we've been able to link them to. So with that said, so what I was going to touch on is one of these 3 juveniles we had arrested already a couple months ago, and we had seen a peak in stolen vehicles. It dropped for about 3 weeks, and then they picked back up, and sure enough, one of these 3 kids we already arrested was back in it, and he's in the ring, the leader of the ring. And the reason when people are asking us, you know, what are you doing, that we can't discuss it is that this is a perfect example. If this kid had known what it was or how we went about catching him the first time, we probably wouldn't have caught him the second time. He would have changed what he was doing. And so sometimes we can't discuss it, but I tell you, we are on top of it. We are looking into it. And in this case, we were able to make the arrest. All 3 of them are still in jail. That we're working with the state. The state attorney's office is looking to prosecute them as adults. So hopefully this time we can go ahead and keep them put away, whether it be juvie or jail, whatever it is. That's the state's responsibility. But hopefully we get them put away so we don't have to worry about that anymore. Now with that said, that doesn't mean become lax, because we did have 5 stolen vehicles this month. I can tell you 2 or 3 of them are somebody lent their vehicle and it never got returned. And yes, that's a stolen vehicle, but it's not what we're normally talking about here. But of the other couple stolen vehicles, the keys were left in the vehicle again. Doors unlocked, somebody hopped in the car and drove away in it. So you still need to keep your vehicles locked. And that leads me to the one area of crime. Our crime has, I mean, when I tell you dropped, it's been almost non-existent this last month. We've been fortunate, with the exception of a couple burglaries to residents. And we have seen a spike in some vehicle burglaries. These vehicle burglaries have been random. It hasn't been anything specific. It's been crimes of opportunity, parking lots of shopping centers and stuff like that. But again, one of the common themes here is these vehicles have been unlocked. And to me, what's alarming is 3 of these vehicles, not only were they left unlocked, but they had guns in there, and all the guns were stolen. So, listen, if you're going to carry a gun, and for whatever reason you need to leave it in the vehicle, let's say you're going into the gym, you don't want to carry it, you know, you want to be responsible, and you don't want to carry your gun into the gym and leave it laying somewhere in a gym bag where someone can pick it up. You need to get yourself a lockbox, and well, 1, you need to lock the vehicle. But 2, you need to get yourself a lockbox or something like that to keep it locked in your vehicle. You can't leave it sitting in your glove box or under the seat with the doors unlocked. Like I said, outside of that, the crime's dropped dramatically in every other category. So that's the good news. And again, we're proactively out there, and hopefully next month I'll be excited to tell you that we're back in our building. Yep. Yeah. All right. Have a good afternoon.
As you all know, the building's been closed for weeks. It's been a very sore spot here. Everybody needs any services. Had to go to Bock or someplace else to find it. I will tell you the Alliance was intimately involved in bringing together all the parties to try and have this settled. So hopefully they have their meeting, and hopefully by the next meeting we'll have our service office back open. We worked 7 years to bring it here, and we don't want it closed up. And so now we're going to call on representing the fire rescue. Come on up, Alfred, and tell everybody your last name. You are
Paul Valenti. How are you doing today? I'm stepping in for Tony Keeler. I'll just keep it short. It's more informational stuff that is up and coming in a season, and for our Florida residents that we happily serve and are proud to serve. The temperatures are going to start rising, so just some information. Stay hydrated if you're outdoors. Pay attention to your neighbors. Make sure they're staying hydrated out there, because it's going to start heating up quick. I know it's a little early. It's only April. But you know what next month, May and June is. Start thinking and planning about hurricane season. start getting the stuff prepared now and start getting prepared to make exit and have plans, because you want to get stuff cheaper and everyone likes getting things cheaper. So, but just have a plan ready. Also, you know, Tony, he does a great job down here. I do it up in West Palm area for the HOAs I work with. But you can ask him to come in and do any classes you want. Like, they're just informational classes, but on CPR and Stop the Bleed campaign that was new I think about a year and a half, 2 years ago. He'll go over and talk about the different locations for Palm Beach County and how to do that, because it is an occurrence when people are on blood thinners. If you have an education to dial 911 and how to stop the bleeding quickly. So those are some things that are going on. And then the sheriff brought up about the key fobs. He also has a program that we have literature that you can put on your keychain, on your garage door opener, that nowadays people that do have garages, they're pulling in and their car's running, and that could become a deadly situation. So we definitely want to make sure to make yourself aware of people in a rush, and they're so quiet nowadays, cars, you don't know they're running. So ask him if he can bring that literature down to you, so there's something to talk about. And then, you know, your smoke detectors and your carbon monoxide alarms. When the carbon monoxide alarm's going off, I always say this to all my members up where I'm at, is if that's going off, call 911, get out of the house. Because when that's going off, it's not because of a low battery, right? It's because it's picking something up, or it could be malfunction. I'd rather you go out of the house, get fresh air, and call us. But that's what I have. He has next meeting. He'll go over the numbers, the amount of calls we're doing. But we truly like serving everyone in Palm Beach County, and we always look to do a professional job. So you have a great day.
Thank you, Alfred. Representative Rory Berman, just back from Tallahassee, where as usual, they didn't do us any good. Come on, Rory. She's going to tell you her tale of woe.
We actually did a little good. So I'll start off, we did end March 11th. We did have to extend for an extra 2 days to get the budget passed. As all of you know, we went into this session with huge issues having to do with the Me Too sexual harassment movement, having to do with Hurricane Irma, which hit the state from the Keys to the Panhandle. And we did do a bill for the hurricane, so now nursing homes are going to be required to have some kind of generator. So that was a good, positive, forward step. But I will tell you, February 14th came, and all the air and the oxygen was sucked out of the chamber because of Marjory Stoneman Douglas. And it was the most emotional and difficult session in my 8 years that we've had. And rightfully so, and I'm really proud that we actually passed legislation, the Marjory Stoneman Douglas Act, which contains gun control provisions in it, as well as additional methods for school safety, for hardening our schools, $60 million for mental health. So it was a really good first start. In terms of the gun control, the issues that we did, we banned bump stocks. We now have a 3-day waiting period to purchase any gun in the state. We raised the age from 18 to 21 to purchase assault rifles. And a bill that I had that I'm really particularly proud of actually became part of that law also. And what that bill says is if a law enforcement officer thinks someone's a danger to themselves or to others, you can go to court and remove the guns from that individual. Yeah, so I'm really happy about that, and it has actually been used in Lighthouse Point, right around the corner from here. There was a person, the police officers removed the guns, they went to court, they got the order, and they have the guns, that individual's guns. So it was a very difficult session for all of us, but we did make some really good progress about Marjory Stoneman Douglas. So, in my mind, it's a beginning. We have a lot further to go. I mean, the students asked us to ban assault rifles. That's something I hope that we'll look at in the future. And thank you for the opportunity to represent all of you, to be your voices in Tallahassee. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Berman. Mary Lou Director, our Commissioner, Mary Lou Berger. Come on, Mary Lou. Tell us what's happening in Palm Beach County. Anything good? Here you go.
Bob, there's only good in Palm Beach County.
Right.
Good morning, Alliance. Good morning. A little bit better. Good morning, Alliance. Good morning. All right, I'll take it. I'll take what I can get this morning. I'm not going to take very much time, but for just a minute, I want to focus on one of the best places in Palm Beach County, and that's the Murakami. Who does not know where the Murakami is? And if you don't, walk across the street when you're done with the meeting today. I was privileged, and I am privileged, to be seated on the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County. And every year there is a dinner, and they recognize some of the most important cultural places that are in Palm Beach County. And I had the privilege of presenting the highest award that they give to the Murakami Museum. And I was really, really proud of that. And you should be too. I know that they're working on the plans for the new hotel, also known as the Japanese Ryokan is how they pronounce that, which will give people the opportunity to immerse themselves in the Japanese culture by spending a night or two or whatever they want in that actual hotel, which will be modeled after the hotels in Japan. That's a very exciting project. But for now, I'm just pleased that they're at the top of the pile in the cultural world here in Palm Beach County. Also, I know some of you will be leaving for the summer, and I wish you safe travels, and we look forward to seeing you again back in the fall. And I think I'll just keep it at that and keep it nice and short. Thank you very much. Good to see you all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Representing us to the school board, Karen Brill is our representative for this area, the school board.
Good morning. I too will be very brief. As you know, school safety is on everybody's mind. It's of paramount importance to us. And last week, our school board, your school board, sent a letter to the governor telling him that only authorized law enforcement officials will be permitted to carry guns on our campuses. That's critical. Also, on Friday, the sheriff and our chief of police and superintendent will address the Forum Club on the safety in the wake of the shooting in Parkland. I will tell you also that today we are swearing in our new superintendent. And finally, if you read in the newspaper this week about the Eagle Arts Academy, it's a charter school that's had a lot of problems. We are right now hustling to find places for the 400 plus students in the event that they close down shortly. What's happened is the executive director, and we flagged this to the state, but they insisted we keep giving them money. The executive director paid himself, his wife, and his companies, and has not paid the rent for the school. So they have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And now last week he didn't pay his teachers, and he didn't pay his principals. So the two principals quit, some teachers quit, the EFD director quit, and we are going to find places for those students who it breaks our hearts as school board members because those students and those teachers did absolutely nothing wrong, and we are committed to trying to find a way to pay those teachers for the weeks they haven't been paid. So with that, I will leave you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Well, as usual, we want to thank the sponsor for our breakfast, Seacrest Services Inc. Eric Malloy is going to say a few words here and tell you a little bit about the company. Eric?
Good morning, everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to be here in front of you today. My name is Eric Malloy. I'm the Director of Business Development and Marketing for Seacrest Services. So if any of you don't know Seacrest Services, we're the largest privately held property management company in Palm Beach County. We just opened our new office in West Palm Beach. We moved from one to another. But we are a full-service management company, so we offer for homeowner associations, condo boards, co-ops, everything. Property management services, accounting, violations, the new website rules, so if you need websites, we do those. And I also have a full-service landscaping department, and I have my own general contractor. So really, there's nothing that Seacrest Services can't bring to your HOA. We offer guidance, we offer services, so that's about it. I'll keep it real short because I know you want to get to your other presenters. But thank you again for letting us be here this morning. If anyone likes, I have some information in the back, my cards. Anyone has any questions, please feel free to come see us. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. That was great. With that, I think I will turn the mic over to Dr. Delray, who's introduced our speakers. And here you go, Doctor.
Okay, terrific. Well, we're going to have two terrific speakers this morning. So important, fraud and guardianship and fraud from our clerk and comptroller, and then something very interesting about HOAs when you've got these corporations owning and what people's rights are in them. So this is going to be excellent. We just two things. Save the date, Friday, June 1st is our Alliance breakfast at an undisclosed location right now because you all will be, whoever the presidents and delegates and alternates receive the invitations in the mails by invitation. And one thing, you know our newsletter, you receive it or else you can always get it online. It's on our website and it also goes out in email. We have things in here that actually don't appear in the newspaper and that really affect our community. So there's always some new information. And during the summer, we'll be having a city edition and a South Palm Beach County edition because all of those areas affect us. Not just the Delray Beach area, but we do run from the Everglades to the ocean. You have question cards there for our speakers in case you've got a question that you could write it down while the speaker is presenting. So our first speaker today is Clerk and Comptroller Sharon Bock. She was first elected to the office in November 2004, and now she's in her 4th term. What an incredible, incredible leader. She's a tireless advocate for innovation, public access, transparency, technology, to promote continuous government improvement and efficiency. And that's all about what Sharon Bock is and does. Please help me welcome Sharon Bock to the lecture.
First of all, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. I really appreciate it. And I can't tell you how delighted I am being here today. I've been pretty busy because I'm coming in, as Lori told you, my whole world depends on what they do in Tallahassee because I'm actually funded by Tallahassee. And if you know anything about that, you must realize that we have very little control here in Palm Beach County with anything that's going on at the state. So don't have much of a chance to come down and visit you, but there's a couple of things I wanted to do. First of all, I want to introduce you to a couple of people that one you're going to hear speaking and another one I just want you to know that is here. In the back of the room, if you'd stand up, is Shannon Ramsey Chessman, and she's our Chief Operations Officer for my Finance Division and really the brains behind all of the budgets that we do. And Anthony Palmieri, and Anthony is my Chief Deputy in my Inspector General's office, and you're going to hear from him in a minute. I wanted to start out by just telling you that you know that my role that you have elected me to, and thank you so much for electing me 4 times. I can't tell you how much I appreciate being able to continue in government and do a job for you, which is my firm belief, and I've stood on it my entire elected career. But what I wanted to do is tell you that I have 3 roles. One is I'm the clerk of the circuit court. Another one is I am the official registrar, where you file all of your documents, your mortgages, your deeds, etc. And lastly, I am your county comptroller. What you're going to hear today is a mixture of those functions, because what I really am, if you take those individual functions, is that I create a level playing field for the public, for you. I do that because I am independently elected, an independently elected constitutional officer, which means that I answer to only one person or only each of you, and that is to the public. Because of that, I have the ability to create and look at what is going on in the public, whether it be, as you heard from Karen Brill, guns, and I would love to come back and tell you how that gun program works, because the clerk is right at the center of it. And another thing is that our fraud programs. You know, fraud is everywhere, but there is no place where fraud is more prevalent today than with the over 65. Do you know that we are standing right now in ground zero in the United States? We have the oldest per capita population in the United States. And over 85, I don't know if you know this, but Palm Beach County has the oldest over 85 population here in Florida. So why wouldn't we be experiencing fraud at a level that you really don't see in other states like Wyoming, where the average age is about 47? Well, in 2010, it came to my attention that what happened is that we were having an enormous growth in the area of guardianships. And Anthony's going to tell you what a guardianship is. But what I really started seeing is the fact that there was no monitoring. No one was actually looking at what the guardians were doing. So in 2010, I got together with the chief judge and created the first and only guardianship fraud program in the world. And I say in the world because we actually had a hotline. And that first month that the hotline came out, we were getting calls from Canada, almost all 50 states. And really what we have seen in the adoption of the program that Anthony's going to tell you about today is it has now been adopted by the state of Nevada, the state of Tennessee, and a handful of other states. And in fact, 2 years ago, the Congress on the World Congress on Guardianships actually highlighted this as the most effective guardianship monitoring of fraud in the entire world. So let me have Anthony come up here and tell you about it, then I'm going to be able to answer any questions for you as well as Anthony will. Anthony?
Well, thank you very much, Clerk Bock, and thank you, Alliance, for having us here to talk about this very important topic. So, imagine that you're sitting in your house and you're looking out the back window, and you see someone walking up the side of your property, taking pictures of your house, taking pictures of your car, and all of your belongings. And you lean your head out the window, and you say, "Hey, what are you doing? Who are you? What do you want?" And the person comes up to you and says, "I am your court-appointed professional guardian, and I was ordered by the court to take and marshal all of your assets and to manage your life." Little bit scary, huh? Well, it happens every day in Florida, and it happens every day in Palm Beach County. And the guardianship system really is a system that protects people that can't make decisions, that are incapacitated. And it really does a great job of protecting people, but it is also used as a tool to control, a tool to exploit incapacitated people as well. Now, we could spend this entire time going through the entire legal process on a guardianship, but at a very high level, you should know that a guardianship is a process where a court adjudicates someone as incapacitated, whether they have Alzheimer's, whether they have a traumatic brain injury, there are a lot of different situations in which the court will adjudicate you as incapacitated. But they appoint a third party to marshal your assets and to control your life. In Palm Beach County alone, we have approximately 3,000 to 5,000 at any one point adjudicated guardianships. All right, and the thing, usually when you hear guardianship, a lot of images may come to mind. Maybe you're thinking that, well, a ward, which is a statutory terminology, a ward of the state, well, maybe that person is indigent. They don't have very much money. Well, that cannot be further from the truth in Palm Beach County. Our persons under guardianship, wards, have about $1 billion that are being controlled by third parties, guardians. Now, guardians can be many different people. They could be family members. The vast majority of guardianships in Palm Beach County and in the state of Florida, the person that is being appointed is a family member. But then you also can have professional guardians, a person that is appointed and it's their job to manage your property, to manage your person decisions, where you go to see the doctor, we make medical decisions, where you reside, who you are, who you have social interactions with, where you can travel, okay, and that's a job. And to be honest, the issues, since I was hired by Clerk Bock, the majority of the issues that we've uncovered involve that category of guardian, the family guardian. But that's not to say that there's not some bad professional guardians, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But it's our job to find whoever it is that is exploiting a person under guardianship and to remove them from the system and to put them into, if there's a crime that has occurred, put that person into the criminal justice system. So let me just, Clerk Bock touched on a couple of these in her overall responsibilities as the clerk and controller, and the points that she was making could not be any more true than in the guardianship, in the clerk's guardianship fraud program. Many people think that that persons under guardianship, the deck is stacked against them, and then they don't have a voice, and they don't have, and it's not a fair, level playing field. Well, our program does just that. It levels the playing fields, and it gives the incapacitated person a voice. Guardianship, there's a long history of guardianship, and the clerk's role in guardianship started in about 1989. It's when the legislature decided that the courts alone weren't enough to monitor guardianships. So the legislature gave the clerks the statutory ability to monitor guardianships. And that's what we've done ever since 1989. But we've really ramped up the monitoring of guardianships since the clerk started her program in 2010. So what we started doing in 2010 was to audit and investigate guardianships using professional standards. Our office, the Clerk's Inspector General Office, is accredited by the Florida Commission for Law Enforcement. And what that means is we not only review cases, but we apply professional standards to our audits and investigations. So we're applying professional standards to these guardianships and monitoring what exactly is going on. We trace every penny in a guardianship and to determine that it's being used for a rightful purpose. Here's a quick statistics about the clerk's program starting in 2010. We've audited and investigated over 1,800 cases, and we've had, we've had calls to the clerk's guardianship fraud hotline from every state in the country, and we've also had international, Canada. Clerk mentioned Canada, Uruguay, and many other countries. We've identified over $6 million worth of fraud. And that's a drop in the bucket, to be honest, compared to the $1 billion that is being controlled by third-party guardians in Palm Beach County. But we've identified lots of different fraud, and we've referred over 60 cases to law enforcement and adult protective services, people that we have identified as mistreating either assets or the person. Clerk Bock mentioned that we were the first guardianship fraud hotline in the country. And I'm happy to say that today there are about 8 guardianship fraud hotlines, all modeled after our program right here in Palm Beach County. And we have a state hotline in which persons can call and allege that a professional guardian their conduct is violating Florida statute or Florida criminal code. So this is all, like Clerk Bock mentioned, we are in the epicenter of guardianship issues, but our program has been very successful in being modeled throughout the state and throughout the country. I left my contact slide up here. I will be available after the presentation, after the meeting. I will answer any question that you have about the legal process of guardianship or any questions that you have about our audits or investigations. But are we going to take some questions? Yeah.
Are there, Anthony, thank you so much. And by the way, he knows way more than he even told you, so he just gave you a high-level view. Any questions that you may have of either me, my office, the guardianship program, or Anthony and what he does?
Yeah, we have cards did anybody fill them out, the cards? We'll take them one at a time. John, can you pick them up? Start out with this one, just hand it over to me there. We'll start out with that. Okay. No? Okay. Here we are. Okay, our first question. Don't guardian have to file yearly accounting reviewed by courts?
Yeah.
How does that?
Yeah. Just so that you know. Well, you know what? Let me let Anthony answer that.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So guardians are required to submit financial reports and reports on the person on an annual basis. And the clerk's role with the reports is to audit and investigate those reports and to advise the court on whether the reports are reliable. So that is the mechanism in which the clerk and the court monitor guardianships. And we audit 100% of the guardianship reports that are filed in Palm Beach County, with thousands and thousands of reports every year.
We have a question here. They want the phone number for the guardianship program. I see this is the Deputy Inspector General. Is there a particular phone number?
Yep, it is 561-355-FRAUD. You might think, well, that's too many digits. Just knock off the last D. It'll get you there.
And we have a question for Clerk Bock. Does guardianship require bonding? Bonding. Are people bond to recover monies? Yes.
Yes, they are. Professional guardians are required to have a $50,000 bond that's filed with the state. Now, if the assets being marshaled by the guardian exceed the $50,000, it's up to the court to order additional bond.
And many times they don't if it's a family guardian. And so that is a little bit different as well. Thank you.
Guardianship by family, when does it become formal?
When a petition to the court is filed, that is when a formality of a family member is now moving from a caretaker role to a guardianship role. And by the way, you can eliminate, just as an aside, you can eliminate this whole issue with guardianship by having proper documentation. Have a will, have a trust, have a living will, have all of the different elements that we need as we age so that your family is fully instructed. And when that happens, you'll never need to use the courts. Some of the times, especially in some high net worth individuals, the family members will actually go into court, initially into a probate, and get a will set aside. And once that happens, then a guardianship may take place even after you have done everything you can to ensure that your wishes are met. what I would say there is not only do your will, but make sure that your executor knows what's going on. Make sure your family knows what's going on. Try not to surprise them. Try to get this out in the open. It's a very sensitive topic. Believe me, I'm a 94-year-old mother. It's a very sensitive topic. But in today's world, it's something that we've just got to do.
And we have one question here. Do trusts cover this? Is this aside from trusts?
As I say, a trust is a document that is a document of how you dispose of your property, okay? Anthony, have you seen when trusts aren't able to be used because of such things as dementia, etc.?
Sure. Many of our guardianships involve trust assets. And think of a trust, when you're considering a trust and looking at a trust, think of it as ensure that there's a check and balance system. The problems that we see in guardianships is when the guardian is also the trustee of the trust, and the check and balance is broken down there. We have a guardianship in Palm Beach County that involves trust assets of over $300 million. That is also in the guardianship, so it's not unusual that a guardianship will have trust assets that are marshaled in the guardianship and have oversight from the clerk.
Well, thank you very much. Now, Clerk Bock wanted to mention something else as well.
Just one last comment that this is huge. That every 20 years, the Constitutional Revision Committee meets, and you may have already heard someone speak about this, and if not, Dr. Lurie, I would actually have this be a topic over the next few months. In November, right now there are 37 proposals to change the Constitution. I wanted to just bring up one that I would like to come in the fall and talk to you about again. It's called Proposition 13. And what Proposition 13 does is it keeps the constitutional officers, me as the clerk and comptroller, the tax collector, the property appraiser, the sheriff, and the supervisor of elections independent, meaning that no entity, no municipality or county can come in and take over our duties. And I will tell you, this is extremely important, not so much here in Palm Beach County, because I have a very good and close working relationship with all of our municipalities and as well as the county. But this is happening all over the state. And I will be back, and I would like to talk to you more about it. We need to get a yes vote on this so that we can keep the independent role and the check and balance favorable to the public. Remember, in county government, there is no 3 branches of government. There's only one branch of government, and that's the county commissioners, which is the executive and the legislative branch. The only check and balance that we have is the constitutional officers. I would not have been able to start this program if it wasn't for my independence. So we'll be back and talk about this. Listen, I, again, want to say, as I have many times to you, it is an honor and a privilege to serve and to be your clerk and comptroller. On behalf of Anthony, Palmieri, and me, we very much appreciate your time. We'll be happy to answer questions and even come to your communities if you would like us to tell you a little bit more about the guardianship program and other programs we have. And thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you both. Always so crystal clear with your speaking, and we understand you so well, and really is excellent. Thank you. Would everyone like to see something like that in the September or October meeting? Something about these propositions and the Constitution, which, yes, that is going to be amended a bit, so we'll have something about that, including we'll bring some of our candidates here because we'll have time before the November election. Our next speaker, Henry Handler, excellent. He is from the law offices of Weiss, Handler, in Cornwell. This is an important subject. It's come up so much more recently, and over the past few years, corporate ownership in condominiums and homeowner associations fee simples. What's that all about? How do you handle it as leaders of the community? He is graduated from Princeton, yes, down the street from my Rutgers, with honors, and from the University of Virginia School of Law. He really is one of the the lawyers in the forefront of condominium and HOA law, and he did have one of the largest construction defect cases with historic judgments against in settlements. So he knows an awful lot about HOA law, and this is just one minor area that we need to fill in because we haven't gotten a whole lot of information about this. So please help me welcome Henry Handler to the lectern.
Thank you, Lori. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I also want to acknowledge Kevin Rader, a great public servant. You're going to be getting a heavy dose of legalese, but it was a great presentation by our clerk. And I do want to talk to you this morning about an issue that many of our clients are facing, struggling with, overcoming, and that is, how do you manage corporate ownership in a condominium or homeowners association? We all know that corporate ownership of condominium and homes is more prevalent. It's become more prevalent for several reasons. The first of which is that because of the spate of foreclosures, banks take their time in administering the foreclosure lawsuit. Associations suffer by the failure to collect assessments from units in foreclosure, and oftentimes those institutions, they collect their bad debt, sell it as a package, and winds up it being purchased by corporations. You couple that with the very popular and very prominent sales pitch that we see online with many new websites like LegalZoom promoting corporate ownership. I took off from LegalZoom this morning their promotion for corporate ownership. If a business operates as a corporation, the business owners, called shareholders, are not personally liable for debts or other claims against the corporation. That's because the corporation is a separate legal entity from its owners. If a corporation complies with the formalities required for it to be treated as a separate legal entity, then anyone seeking to collect a debt from or enforce a claim against a corporation would not be able to collect from the shareholders themselves. They would only be able to pursue the assets in the name of the corporation. So in combination with the spate of foreclosures in South Florida and the promotion of corporate ownership to shield individuals from liability that used to be individual in nature, we have a growing tension that's being fought out right in our homeowner communities and in our condominiums. And that is the tension between the ability of people to sell their property, to sell their units or homes to anybody whom they want to, versus the needs of associations to properly manage and maintain the common elements or their communities in a consistent and in a managed setting so that the standards by which the community is maintained are kept, are enforced, and that the associations collect all of the dues or assessments from all of the unit owners. There's a real actual tension between those two legal principles being fought out every year in homeowner associations and with condominium associations. But there's a pathway through this. This is not to be viewed as something that is indefatigable. It should be, associations have and should recognize that they have the ability with which to manage the properties for which they are responsible. Both the Condominium Act and the Homeowners Association Act of Florida, those are portions of your Florida state statute, 718 for condominium associations and 720 for homeowners associations. They don't prevent the leasing of units, but what the law allows is for associations to manage and to pass rules and regulations and to pass amendments to the Declaration of Condominium or to the restrictive covenants which bind all of the owners of property. There is a very famous case in Florida called the Woodside Village Condominium Association case, decided in 2002, which said that a condominium association was permitted to severely restrict the leasing of units by corporations or any other unit owner, even though for 25 years before the association amended its declaration of condominium, all the owners leased. And they leased to corporations and they leased to other unit owners virtually unfettered, virtually uncontrolled. But the association, with the power to amend its documents, was able to organize an amendment that severely restricted leasing in that community by limiting the number of leases that a corporation or any other unit owner could have, both in terms of number of times and for duration during a year. The problems with corporate ownership are many, and that is, do the corporations allow people who are committed to the community to reside there? Are they truly family use? Are they meant to have just corporate employees enjoy a temporary stay in the community? What are the true purposes of having a corporation own a unit? All of the issues that I just described to you can be managed and regulated by rules and regulations that are passed by the Board of Directors or amendments to the documents that are adopted and approved by the entire membership. Who resides, how many times a unit can be leased, what a unit can be used for, and the way in which people are responsible and have to present themselves and have access to a community. All of those issues can be managed and regulated by changes to your rules and regulations or amendments to your homeowner association documents or declarations of condominium. You are, as leaders of your communities, you are empowered by the court system and decisional law in Florida to pass amendments or to create rules and regulations in the manner in which your documents permit you in order for you to regulate corporate ownership of homes in the communities which you represent. You are empowered to do so. So it is not to be, the message I'm trying to deliver today is that corporate ownership is a much more common feature today. That is principally to whom lenders like to sell when they foreclose. That is the manner in which people like to purchase property. What you can't do is discriminate against corporate ownership, and you really don't want to do that as leaders of your community because you want to preserve as much flexibility for your unit owners to sell their units when the time comes, but you can regulate and manage the way in which corporate owners maintain and respond to rules and regulations that you can adopt. For some associations, I know it is a real challenge because to obtain the necessary percentage of approval of your membership to change a homeowner set of documents or your declaration of condominium is formidable. It's a large percentage. It can be as much as 75% of all of the owners in the community. What you have to do in that instance is look very carefully to see, with advice of your counsel, to see if you can manage some of these issues by rule and regulation, which boards are empowered to change and to develop, or if it comes to a point where you're advised that you need to amend your documents, you have to plan, you have to be able to really promote necessary changes to obtain the necessary vote of your membership, as difficult and as daunting as that challenge is, in order to secure the necessary limitations on corporate ownership and the use of your units, because it can be regulated. And my message today is that you need not fear corporate ownership, as it is a more popular way and it's a greater reality of today of the way in which homes, condominium units, and homes and homeowners associations are being conveyed. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions? Did you have a card here? Okay. And, oh, thank you, Sam. Here we are, yes. Is a document amendment forbidding corporate ownership enforceable?
It will not be. And you really do not want to have a limitation on corporate ownership, because it will hurt the members of your association if you take away an entire block of potential purchasers from your unit owners. And so the law in Florida is that you can regulate vigorously the use of the units, but you cannot discriminate against any particular group of unit owners or the way in which they can take title. As long as corporate ownership is legal in Florida, I do not see, if challenged, an amendment that strictly prohibits corporate ownership and being enforced by the Florida courts.
Has it ever been challenged, sir?
Do we have a question? How do we limit an existing corporation, an LLC?
You really cannot limit whether it's a C corporation or an LLC from owning a unit, but what you can do is regulate the way in which they use a home or a unit by making sure that they identify the users, to make sure that they don't have an excess of visitors, to make sure that they follow all the rules and regulations, and in some instances, what you can do is require deposits, so that if the users of a corporately owned unit damage the common elements or inflict damage to common areas in a homeowners association, there is a ready-made fund available to answer a repair quickly.
And someone did call out a question here about case law. I know you mentioned the one, but is these things about being challenged, are they being challenged currently?
Actually, there is no current challenge in the appellate courts that I know of, but the Woodside Village condominium case, which I did cite, did say that you cannot discriminate against any particular brand of or category of owner, and pointed to the ability to amend use and operation as the way in which associations can amend its documents to regulate renting and visitors and things like that.
And is there a limit on the number of units an owner can have by a single entity? Can a corporation or entity own more than, can you limit them?
There are several associations of which I am aware that do limit the number of units owned by corporate owners. They don't prohibit it, but they do limit it. And there are many associations turning to establishing a percentage of total number of homes which can be subject to rental. I've seen it as much as 25%. That is to say, there can be no more than 25% of the units in particular condominiums subject to rental at any one time. And when one goes off of the rental pool, that means another space is available for the next available unit owner who wishes to rent out his unit. So that is another way of limiting excessive rentals in the community, not necessarily those of corporations.
Thank you so much. Those were great questions, and it was a great presentation.
Thank you very much.
Wait, before you leave, can we have a little commercial for you? I didn't put down anything in the newsletter about where your office is located or your phone number. So you can go ahead and give that to the audience now, please.
Thank you. We are located in Boca Raton, 2255 Glades Road in Boca Raton, and our phone number is 561-997-9995. It has been our pleasure for over 35 years to have represented condominium associations, homeowner associations, and country club communities.
And I'm sure you do wills and trusts too, right?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Thank you. And that's it for the program. We learned so much today. We always learn so much and get new information. Next month, we're going to have the United States government here talking about cyber security and all. It's very interesting from Congresswoman Frankel's office. And we'll also have information about drones in your communities, what to do about them when they hover over. So we'll see you next month.